You.
Yay, Susan.
It's good to be back. So
Isn't that
I'm glad to see you all. But the recording
Yeah.
has been started.
excellent? Well, good evening. Welcome to study session of the Planning Commission on Wednesday, the 22nd of October. And I believe that Brandon or whichever staff member wishes to lead us out, we have the joy of hearing about an APS school.
Of course, is Connor Bailey here. I'm going to be the case planner presenting this project. Let me pull
Awesome.
up my
Thank you.
presentation here. And let me know when you can see my screen.
See
I
it.
see your screen.
Okay, awesome. Well, good evening, commissioners. As I said, my name is Connor Bailey, and I will be presenting for staff on this application for the Aurora Public Schools Health Science High School application. So let's get into it. So the applicant, Aurora Public Schools, is requesting a advisory site plan for a proposed new high school, which will focus on health science skills and simulation-based learning leading to careers in the healthcare industry. The current zoning for the subject site is OA-R-1, which is the original Aurora low density residential with the Aurora place type of original Aurora. I do want to note that there is a concurrent administrative street vacation that is also being processed for the subject site as well. So where are we? Looking at the vicinity map, the subject site is located within Ward 1 of the city of Aurora. As seen on the vicinity map, the subject site is located north of the major intersection between North Peoria Street and East Montview Boulevard, but specifically the subject site is located at the southwest corner of the intersection between North Peoria Street and East 23rd Avenue. As shown in red, we have the Fitzsimmons Innovation Community that is to the east of the subject site. And then we, of course, have the University of Colorado Anschutz and the UC Health Hospital as shown in the bottom southeast portion of the vicinity map. So looking at the aerial map, per the aerial of September of this year, you can see the existing conditions for the subject site, which are public playfields north of the existing middle school, which is North Middle School in this case. The scope of the advisory site plan is just for the approximate 7 acres of these playfields, and there are no modifications to the existing North Middle School. Also, as seen in this aerial, the subject site is bounded by East 23rd Avenue to the north. We have, which across East 23rd Avenue, we have single-family residential, which is a part of the North Aurora neighborhood. To the east of the subject site, we have North Peoria Street, which is across North Peoria Street, we have vacant land that belongs to the Fitzsimmons Innovation Community. And as previously mentioned, the existing North Middle School is to the south of the subject site. To the west of the subject site is single-family residential, which is also a part of the North Aurora neighborhood. I do want to note that there is an alley that exists between the western residential properties and the western property line of the subject site. Moving forward, getting into the zoning map. As noted earlier, the subject site has a zoning designation of original Aurora low density residential, which is the OA-R-1. The surrounding area to the south and to the west shares the same zoning designation of OA-R-1. The single-family residential that you see to the north has a zoning designations of both original Aurora medium density residential, which is the OA-R-2, and then also the mixed-use Fitzsimmons boundary, which is the MU-FB. The vacant land to the east across North Peoria Street has a zoning designation of planned development, which is PD, which is associated with the Fitzsimmons Innovation Campus GDP. I do want to note that look at the Fitzsimmons GDP to give more additional information. The land directly east is planned for mixed-use innovation and research uses, while the land to the northeast at the intersection is planned for mixed-use office and commercial uses that are going to be planned and developed for the Fitzsimmons Innovation Campus. So let's get into some site photos. So as you see here in this photo, you can see the subject site from the view at the intersection between North Peoria Street and East 23rd Avenue, with Peoria being on the left and East 23rd Avenue on the right. The existing playfields can be seen for the subject site. Also, the existing street improvements are shown at this intersection, including the attached sidewalk. As seen in this photo along North Peoria Street, you can see once again the existing playfields for the subject site and the existing attached sidewalk along North Peoria Street. I do want to note that you can see the adjacent Western single-family residential properties farther in the distance there. Moving forward with additional site photos, you can see the existing alley and single-family residential properties to the west of the subject site. And then in this site photo, you can see the existing single-family residential to the north of the subject site across East 23rd Avenue. So let's get into what is being proposed for the site plan. So shown here is the proposed advisory site plan for the new high school building. The letter of intent that was provided by the applicant indicates the new school will accommodate 450 students. The project proposes a new 3-story building at the northeast corner of the subject site with building frontage oriented internal to the site. The new high school building will have an approximate gross floor area of 85,000 square feet, and the proposed site plan provides an internal courtyard plaza and synthetic turf field along North Peoria Street, and a surface parking area in the center of the subject site that you see there, and then a one-way drive aisle along the western property line. I do also want to say that in addition, there are bio-retention facilities proposed along the western property line. And then the proposed development provides a northern service/loading area to the north along East 23rd Avenue, which is also accessed from East 23rd Avenue as well. I do want to note for this area, for the service and loading, that is a topic of discussion regarding additional screening for a service and loading area facing a public right-of-way. The central parking area containing 142 parking spaces is accessed from East 22nd Avenue from the south, where both ingress and egress are provided. Additional egress from the subject site is provided through a one-way drive aisle that connects north up to East 23rd Avenue. I do also want to note that the alley for the western residential properties is not to be modified and will continue its connection from both East 22nd Avenue and East 23rd Avenue. The proposed development provides pedestrian connectivity that connects the building's main entrance, its internal courtyard, and its synthetic turf fields to the central parking area, to the Southern Middle School building to the south, and then the sidewalks along East 23rd Avenue to the north, to North Peoria Street to the east, and then East 22nd Avenue to the south. I did want to also note that seen in that dark red, that is where the concurrent administrative street vacation is being processed. It's a approximately 30-foot wide segment of right-of-way that's at the southwest portion adjacent to East 22nd Avenue. I did kind of want to show that this is showing the top half of the site plan, and then this is what the bottom half is showing. So showing that bottom half of the synthetic turf fields, the others central parking area, and then that connection that leads to the Southern Middle School building. So moving on to the architecture for the architectural elevations, you'll see the elevations for the new high school building. The southeast elevation, which faces internal to the south and to the east along North Peoria Street, is seen on top. The northwest elevation facing to the north along East 23rd Avenue and to the west is seen on the bottom. The elevations note that the first floor is built with a brick facade, while upper levels being clad in formed metal panels. I do want to note with these red dash boxes for the east and north building facades, planning did have comments for both these facades since they are not meeting architectural standards, but I can get into that further into this presentation. Which seeing here, the east building facade along North Peoria Street is shown on top, while the north building facade along East 23rd Avenue is shown on bottom. The proposed building orientation is internal, which is leaving these long and flat facades adjacent to the street. The north and east facades are not meeting the massing or human scale elements typically required by our architectural standards. This is impactful because, as I was showing on the vicinity map in the larger scale, that at that corner of East 23rd Avenue and Peoria Street. It's planned as a landmark corner of the Fitzsimmons development. Turning the building away from the intersection is just having negative impacts on what was planned as a prominent corner for the area. So we just wanted to bring that up. Getting into the community response, just wanted to highlight that for the proposed high school building. Just, based off of this being a Aurora Public Schools, this is where the MOU school agreement comes into play. Public notice to adjacent property owners is the responsibility of the Aurora Public Schools. APS was highly encouraged to notify all impacted properties and community organizations independently. Despite staff not providing any public notice, we did receive one comment from the Northwest Aurora Neighborhood Organization. They had concerns about traffic that was going to be generated from the use, if enough parking was going to be provided for the new high school building. And then they also had questions how the synthetic field was going to be used for the public, since the new school is being built where existing play fields are right now. I did want to note that the applicant didn't provide any information about the community meetings, but I know that the applicant is here, so they can provide any additional information on the community response. Getting into the issues that discussed. So through the initial advisory review, there are three main items that were discussed, with the first being the coordination of sidewalk and streetlight improvements. This is an item that was brought up by the City of Aurora Civil Engineering, which was coordinating with the applicant regarding the following sidewalk and streetlight improvement requirements. Those being a detached 10-foot wide sidewalk along Peoria Street, a detached 5.5-foot wide sidewalk along East 23rd Avenue, updating the street lights along all the public rights-of-ways of Peoria Street, East 23rd Avenue, and East 22nd Avenue, and then for the ramps to be updated at the southwest, north, and east corners of East 22nd Avenue and North Oswego Street. It has been indicated by the applicant that they are requesting variances from these improvements, wherein the variances are not granted at this time. Moving on to the second item is the traffic impact study. Our traffic engineering has indicated that several outstanding comments will need to be addressed for the traffic impact study, the TIS. A revised TIS should be provided at the time of civil plans. Mainly, the TIS needs to be revised to better reflect accurate traffic counts associated with APS school projects. And then lastly here is the coordination of street frontage design. As previously mentioned on the site plan and the architectural elevations that I just discussed, planning provided the following comments regarding street frontage design. The architectural elevations for the north and east building facades should be revised to incorporate massing and human scale elements to meet architectural standards. And then second, additional screening should be provided for that north service/loading area along East 23rd Avenue to screen this area from the public right-of-way. Moving on to the approval criteria. So although the regulations of the Unified Development Ordinance, the UDO, are advisory, staff has reviewed the proposal to the site plan criteria and found the proposal is consistent with the Aurora Places Comprehensive Plan by providing important neighborhood services to the children and families of Aurora, and is a supporting land use for the original Aurora Place type. The proposed development complies with the use specific and parking design standards, but does not meet all the building design or dimensional standards and is not oriented towards the street. And then the proposal does not meet other adopted city standards for roadway public improvements, such as the sidewalk, street lights, and ADA standards. However, these items may be further refined in the civil plan review process. And I do want to note that the proposal has followed the guidance of the MOU advisory site plan review process. So what are the next steps? Because the application does not generally follow the standards of the UDO, there are a few options for what you can request as Planning Commission. The first being we can move forward with the proposal. The TIS and civil design review comments will be addressed during the civil stage, but the UDO requirements will not be met. The second option is you can request a meeting with the school board. per the MOU. If there are issues where the school district and the Plan Commission cannot reach agreement, the Planning Commission will request a hearing with the Board of Education. And lastly, you can request for the applicant to come back to Planning Commission study session to present an updated site plan as civil design progresses. I do want to note that the outstanding planning issues will then be disregarded per the MOU, but still based off of that, the civil items will still need to be resolved for civil plan approval, and staff can provide updates on how those items have progressed. So getting into staff findings, in conclusion, per the site plan approval criteria, staff does not find the application to be generally consistent with the requirements of the UDO. However, per the MOU, the applicant may proceed through the advisory site plan process. Staff believes that the significant civil design issues that remain unresolved will be further addressed through the civil plan review process. If the Planning Commission has significant concerns, staff awaits a direction to meet with the school board as outlined in the MOU. That concludes staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. If not, we can move on to the applicant's presentation or any information that they have.
I have a question with reference to transition. North Middle School is the school that's attached. So is that going to be a transitional school, or is that school going to be torn down to make room for the new school? So that transition there. The other transition is that there is a very similar school within less than a mile that is also a high school charter school for health sciences. How does this particular school and that school coordinate their efforts so that we don't have kids getting hit on Peoria?
Gotcha. I know I do have the applicant of the APS, and I do have the agent of Nicole Lacra here with Canon Design. I believe if there's any questions when it comes to APS, they would be the best to answer that. Let me stop sharing my screen real quick.
Before we go to the applicant, let's make sure that do the commissioners have any question of staff? Go ahead,
Yes.
Commissioner Riley.
Thank you. So, I mean, I toured the site. I looked at 23rd. I see that there's going to be a big intersection there. And as you stated, you know, you want a sidewalk there, you want to have some type of shielding for the mechanical stuff. But the school's asking for variances. I know that Director Rusted has given us some guidance, you know, and how staff has opportunities to interpret things and provide us information. And we had a school discussion previously. I get a little concerned when we start talking about kids and traffic. And sometimes I don't think that is ultimately in the mind of developers. And it just concerns me. You know, and I could probably ask that of the applicant as well, but I will continue to raise this as an avid bicyclist. You know, I'm on the streets, I'm primarily on Highline Canal, but I just look at the traffic, and if there's going to be further development at the Fitzsimmons Center, and you want this, how'd you call it, this community, this prominent corner, that's a lot of traffic, and that's a lot of kids. And as Melvin said, you know, are they crossing the street? I'm just a little concerned about safety issues here. That's my only comment.
Of course, no, and thank you, Commissioner Riley, on that. And that's why we wanted to bring that up in our presentation of making sure that, you know, those were the public street improvements that were requested. And I know I have Julie Bigham from our civil engineering here as well, if there's anything additional to be provided. But that is something that why we wanted to bring that up.
Julie, would you like to respond to that? Under the understanding that you still have some more work to do related to the review process of this particular facility, but will you help enlighten us for the time being here?
Absolutely. So we're working with the applicant right now We are required to review this under the roadway manual. We, under the civil review process, need to evaluate this. We need to make sure that it's meeting ADA requirements. Technically, it would be a variance to not provide a detached walk. So if they can't provide justification for why the detached walk can't be provided, then they would be required to provide it. So we'll evaluate that as part of the civil plan process, and we'll work with them to see what the constraints are. But we're actively coordinating on that right now for both Peoria and 23rd.
Well, what I hear is two things, Julie. I hear that and understand that this is a civil design aspect, but it is also a life safety aspect. And I just want to make sure that in the civil review, you are also, you and or Mike Dean's group is also reviewing the life safety, because design is one thing, implementing safety for a number of kids that all converge at the same time and that may or may not be walking and watching their phones is a whole different issue.
Yes, absolutely. The variances are only granted under very specific circumstances. Cost is not necessarily one of those. So we really evaluate the safety. We really want to make sure that the frontage of this area is safe for pedestrians. So we really evaluate that to the fullest extent and try to ensure that we have evaluated all options and ensure that this is the best case scenario and works for all parties involved.
Okay. Any other questions by the commissioners before the applicant presentation?
Vice Chair Hogan.
Yes.
I think I see that I believe Dean Kaiser's with us. I'd like to go over and hear from Dean the comments on the traffic study and sort of where we're at in the part with the traffic study. It's very concerning looking at them potentially looking at variances on not doing the sidewalk expansions, especially when I noticed, I think the traffic study said this will generate about 873-ish new trips to the area. And all of us that travel Peoria already know that Peoria is pretty packed, and putting a mid-sized school next to an already large arterial pathway without implementing any of these traffic suggestions. I'm just curious what your stance is, where the comments are, where we are in the process with review, and where traffic's going to come back on some of these variances as well.
Good evening, Commission. This is Dean Kaiser with the Development Services Traffic Unit. Yes, I did do the traffic review of the traffic impact study. I had numerous comments in that study. A lot of them most of them are superficial, just really cleaning up things. Some of the count data that they provided at the different intersections didn't match the figure sheets that they provided in the study. So they weren't off by that much. I'm just looking through some of the notes that I had made. I always put a sort of a detailed bullet point list of things that I'm concerned about. I was concerned they did not look at the time period when school actually lets out. There's bell times, obviously. There's a morning bell. There's a closing bell in the early afternoon. They only looked at the PM peak hour street traffic, which is usually sometime between 4 and 6. But the closing bell is usually sometime around 3:30ish. So that was a major concern, because they weren't really looking at what was happening at the time those students were leaving, parents were coming to pick up, and things like that. So that was a concern of mine. A lot of the other stuff was again very more superficial. Traffic wise, the intersections were looked at with the expectation of the Fitzsimmons campus coming in. So there was a lot of traffic added. Our traffic signals along Peoria are currently able to handle the additional traffic that's expected to be, coming in from Fitzsimmons. So there will be obviously a lot more trips being generated, by the school, by Fitzsimmons. These intersections on Peoria can handle that for the time being. The variances really, based on what I looked at, they don't really, it's hard to say. They're not quite comparable to what the traffic impact study is showing. My issues are their spacing of access points appropriate along 23rd, the 22nd Avenue access and things like that. And those all seem to be, they should work even with some of the traffic discrepancies that they were showing. So to your point, Chairman Walls, it wasn't so much to the point of, the detached sidewalk isn't truly, an impact study issue. The variance to the facade, same thing. That's a building issue. That's not a traffic issue. So the process that we're looking at, obviously you've heard me come on for a couple other schools recently, and we are really trying to get the school district to provide a traffic impact study that identifies the true conditions, the conditions that are going to happen out there, especially when the facility's open and operational and things like that. So I want this study to be, very coherent, very exact. And that's why we are asking for them to provide an update to all the comments that I have in there, and bring that in when they finally bring in the first round of civil plans. We did that for a couple other schools already, so we're hoping that can continue. I feel like the issues that I have raised in this study really won't impact, those other issues, the variance issues at this point. So that's the best way I can answer that for you.
Commissioner Benka, go ahead.
Yes. One of the things on the traffic that you just spoke to that really concerned me was that you said that they didn't do a traffic study at that 3 o'clock bell time. And my husband was a frequent flyer at University Hospital. There are a lot of shifts that are 7 o'clock to 3 o'clock. So if you've got a 3 o'clock bell, you got a 3 o'clock shift change for a lot of people, which a 4 o'clock traffic study doesn't really take into consideration. I mean, I realize some people work 10-hour shifts or 12 or whatever, but 7 to 3 is a very typical medical shift for people. And so not only do you have a shift leaving, but you've got people coming. I don't know. I'm as concerned about the traffic stuff issues as everybody else is. So anyway.
I concur completely. The issue we've had with some of these traffic studies for the schools is the traffic consultant is not looking at that bell time specifically. We know virtually every school lets out sometime before the afternoon rush hour. The afternoon rush hour, the typical afternoon rush hour, sometime between 4 and 6. I've seen it anywhere from as early as 4 o'clock to as late as 5, starting at 5:30, depending on where it is. We're talking an area in the city of Aurora that's pretty heavily traveled, and like you said, with the neighboring hospital and facilities that have different shift traffic, yes, that's a concern. So that's especially why that was one of the first comments I made in my review, that they were not looking at specifically the bell time, the closing bell time, and seeing what that traffic condition is. I don't have a problem with them looking at the commuter traffic, between the 4 and 6 p.m. period, but that's just sort of the stragglers coming out of the high school, depending on what the high school is offering, sort of after hours. but yes, I specifically asked for, time, sometime, the presumption is the bell time may be sometime between 3 and 3:30. As far as I know, nothing's been set in stone. I did research some of the different bell times for a lot of the other different high schools within APS, and they varied a lot. But I do want to see them look at, find what might be the most reasonable bell time and try to do an analysis of that period and see what's happening. So concur with your thoughts immensely.
All right, we've got quite a few questions that center around traffic, accessibility, walkability, and safety. So let's hear from our school district, please. And if you would state your name for the record and whether or not you are a resident of the city of Aurora, please. Who's speaking on behalf of the district?
I will. My name is Chris Camp. I'm a project manager for Aurora Public Schools, and I am a resident of Aurora.
Great. Thank you, Chris.
Is there anywhere in particular you would like me to start?
Well, traffic seems to be a big deal. So let's talk about traffic and some life safety issues with the students. And
Absolutely.
then within that, the subset is going to be what your traffic study revealed, and maybe perhaps why it wasn't done at peak hours.
So I know that the assumption is that the release bell would be around the 3 o'clock hour. However, North Middle School actually has a 4 o'clock bell time. So the middle school is already a later time than some of our other schools, actually most of our other schools. And the expectation is that the high school would actually let out after North Middle School. They would not be letting out at the same time. And we would actually have to do that currently because of our bus capacity. So it is intended that they will not be releasing at the same time. We also are taking into account Montview Elementary School, which is just down the street, and we are aware of the fact that traffic along 23rd gets a little heavier because of parents dropping off at Montview and then heading out Peoria. So we did take that into consideration as well. One of the reasons that we have the building placed where it is was actually specifically because of our partner, UC Health. They're a partner on this project, and we expect that there will be some travel between the two. So with the signalized crosswalk right there at 23rd and Peoria, we wanted that to be easy access for the students and also for UC Health to get over to the high school. So that was what we were looking at for that. And then as far as the sidewalks go, we definitely take our student safety into consideration. And with North Middle School operating where it has for as long as it has, we did not see that would be any problem. What else?
Okay. I saw a few head shakes there with some concerns about the light at 23rd.
So did I?
Oh, you are on mute, Commissioner Bush.
I have a question. We just recently allowed that parking lot to be built at that light as a temporary, I guess, placement until another construction would be done. Do we have any idea of what and when that's going to happen? Because that's a block down from the school. So if we're going to be changing and putting some new construction there and also adding more population, also we have the school that's on campus, that's the health science school. That's a lot of traffic that you want to cross at 23rd. Are you looking at any other ways for the kids to cross the street or for the traffic? It is a really single family kind of community. So, to have the kids just crossing the street, and they will have to go over to that campus. So I just, like, I would just like maybe a clearer understanding. I think all of the commissioners have voiced concern, but I don't really hear any detailed solutions or approaches to it. I just don't.
Absolutely. So, if it would be acceptable, our architect also has some input on that.
Do you have a traffic engineer or an engineer by chance also to speak to this? Or is your architect also your traffic engineer?
Our architect has the information that they can share on that.
Okay, great. Again, if you're going to speak to the commission, if you would please give your name and whether or not you are a resident of Aurora.
I'm working on, there we go. All right. Hi, my name is Nicole Lacra. I'm actually a resident of Littleton, but Michael Kamak, he is one of our lead designers here at Canon Design, and he'll be speaking to you on some of the design issues that have been discussed.
Yeah, resident of Chicago, Illinois. Absolutely working with the team here. Can you share do you want to share those?
Sure. Yeah.
We can just talk about the site plan. And I think a lot of the great questions that were addressed here are addressed in the overall site planning of the project. One of the main characteristics of this site plan is that it brings the bulk of the student body inward to the site and allows them to congregate, gather, and be on the safety out of the way of Peoria. And of course, 23rd. So you can see that parking is internal to the site. That large walk between the soccer field and the parking, it collects people along with this very distinct plaza in front of the building that allows the students to gather away from traffic. The remainder of the site would be fenced away from the traffic over there, including the soccer field, so that fly balls, et cetera, don't fly out and keep everyone safe. We were very keen to also keep a very large buffer, not only from the line of the field, but from the turf and beyond, so that students had more than enough room for anything coming in and out of the soccer field, that there was no reason to run farther than that. Never mind being stopped by the fence. So our overall strategy centers the students away from the street. Was a very keen number and the overall design. Parking then comes off of 22nd and then allows either the drop-off lanes immediately to the left for kiss and ride out the north, and student and visitor parking in the middle of the site. One of the key features here is this is a magnet school for the entire district of Aurora. So travel to the school is not going to be your typical community school where people are coming from the community. There might be a few, there could be some students coming from the community, but by and large, it'll be drop off, busing, and then students in their own vehicles, as they'll be coming from quite far ranges potentially. And the district is handling that busing that Chris noted earlier. So we bring that traffic and the student drop off and the visitor experience completely separated from the very large Peoria street environment. And that is our main number one topic overall in the site planning. And then, of course, keeping the building itself, the larger parts of the building, towards the center of the site. It steps down to the north We can show you what that looks like in the 3D view, the bulk of the building, to allow visibility and connection around the corner without having a 3-story building on the absolute corner of the site.
Where's that presentation?
Just here you can see how the students are pulled into the center, including some of the site fencing that will be around the field and that large plaza that we were discussing there for congregation of students during that arrival and dismissal period or during events.
Okay.
The back north side. This is the north side of the building now. As you're coming out of the drive lane, that drive lane exiting the site is that one way, allowing traffic then to expand out towards Peoria, going down 23rd. Here is also where we congregated. We've separated completely any service functions of the site in their own distinct zone, so that that never has to conflict with student or pedestrian or vehicular traffic in sight. And that will happen here in the just towards the left, north of the bus you see in the picture. And then the controlled crosswalk here at Peoria and 23rd shows the building on that corner with really great sight lines into the site and the soccer field there. This portion is the only portion of the property that's not fenced, as it has the wall closer to the setback line. And we didn't want an area where students could, or anybody could get trapped in there in between both the fence and the building. Is there another direct question we might be able to answer?
Commissioner Banka, you had a question?
I do. The fact that students will be coming from all over the district, which is a large span, how do you determine if there's 450 students and 140 parking spaces? How do you determine that number? And then is there going to be parking on 22nd? I know Peoria, I don't think there's any parking on Peoria, but I'm thinking, wow, a lot of high schoolers aren't going to leap to take the bus. You know, I mean, a lot of kids that age have a car. And so I'm wondering, how did you determine that 142 parking spaces is adequate?
Yeah, there was a study done with our parking consultant in conjunction with APS standards on how much parking to provide. And the formula is typically a certain percentage of seniors and juniors who do have the ability to drive, assuming the younger grades do not, along with what the drop-off scenarios are. That includes how many cube spaces are in the kiss and ride, which I believe we accommodated 15 total. In order to control backups further down the line to make sure that traffic can continue to flow out. But additionally, what we've done in that kiss and ride lane, because we do expect more drop-offs than not, is that we created a second bypass lane so that if someone is ready to exit, they do not have to wait for the flow of traffic to continue, to really make sure that we're not bottlenecking traffic down 22nd Street into the neighborhood.
Okay. What is this going to be freshmen through seniors? I guess that's a school question.
Yes, that is correct. It will be freshmen through seniors.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I should have asked for a second question. Thank you.
Commissioner Riley, go ahead.
Thank you. So having dealt with magnet schools coming from Virginia, and knowing that these kids are usually going to be going off to work or some other activity afterwards, I question 142 spots being enough. I have increased concerns about those kids that are late to school are going to park in the neighborhood. So then the neighborhood's going to start complaining about vehicles coming in all the time and taking up residential spots. You mentioned earlier, Montview is down the road. I think you're gonna have a problem on 23rd. I really do. I don't think it's been considered in detail enough And I've seen kids drive that are late to school and accidents, mishaps. I don't think, can you tell me that's been all factored into your traffic analysis?
Go ahead, Chris. I'm going to let you respond, and then we have Commissioner Walls who has a question, as do I have a question. So go ahead.
Okay. So as far as the how the parking was considered, we did actually specifically contract FHU to do a parking study for us. And they did look at the ITE parking generation manual for that. And the recommendation that came up with was 117 spaces. They actually had recommended from that and the information that they have from us about the school, about the transportation, that it would be that 99 would be a good conservative answer. So we didn't feel like that was quite high enough, but we knew that our calculation for a typical high school, which is 100% of seniors and 50% of juniors, for our parking, was oversized for this size of a school. And so what we did is we took the 117 for the ITE parking generation manual that was originally recommended, and then we added all of our full-time employee count, so that we would have enough for the recommended student number as well as the full-time employees. Now, what we also did take into consideration is that the North Middle School parking lot is not fully, it's not at full capacity, it's not fully utilized, and that is actually intended to be our overflow parking.
Okay. Commissioner Walls?
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, I want to say I think that the overall design and what you presented here today will be a massive benefit to the community. I think that hasn't really been stated by the commission yet. I don't think there's a commissioner here that would dispute that this neighborhood and Northwest Aurora is going to benefit from the addition of this specific type of school, and it fits in well with the Innovation Campus. You know, a couple of months ago, we heard the adjustments to the master plan for the Innovation Campus and look at adding 7,200 new door fronts to that area immediately to the east. I'm really concerned still that you're going to be asking for variances along the right of way along Peoria. And the elevation that you showed of that corner at 23rd and Peoria only further deepens my concerns. That building is really close to that intersection, and I commute this specific path almost daily, and there isn't a single week that goes by that I don't see a major crash happen just north of there at Fitzsimmons and Peoria. And actually last week, the crash ended up in what would be that front entrance area that would probably either hit your building or just outside of your building. So the fact that you want to push all the way up to the public easement and not do the right-of-way improvements at 10 feet with a 10-foot buffer is really, really concerning in terms of public safety. People aren't going school speeds on Peoria. They're going 40 miles plus an hour, and it's very easy to jump that curb and end up in the corner of your building. So in lieu of that, are you doing any mitigating efforts to help justify these variances? Are you going to be putting bollards on the northeast corner? Are you going to be doing anything from keeping a car careening into that corner of your building?
Chris, I don't know who you want to ask to respond to that on your staff. Somebody has their hand up, I think. Nicole, does your space mate have something to say on this? His name isn't coming up. It's just under Nicole.
Yes, Michael Kamak again,
Okay.
with Canon Design, representing the architect for APS. For that corner, these are really amazing points about that corner. We are not up on the property line. We are also more than the setback back from that, which is 25 feet per the code. So we are almost 30 feet back from the property line. I think 20, maybe it's 26 feet, maybe 26 feet. We can double check. It's in the submission. So what is ultra important about this corner is it's not the front door. Knowing the high hazard of what's happening over here, these are actually our back of house spaces in the building. These are not student focused spaces, nor are they regularly occupied spaces. Part of the planning here where it says drop off on this plan, that is the front door to the building. So all access to and from the building happens from this far side over here. Again, pulling site pedestrians completely away from the Peoria environment was the goal of this project's overall planning. So any access, those few doors you see to the north are egress only and or maintenance only entries to the building at the north corner. And then only from this plaza and from the drop off to the south facing ends are where students, visitors, and faculty are entering this building. It's a great point about the corner about mitigation efforts on what we could do along there. There is a bit of grade change also. This is our building's a bit higher, so it's brick and foundation at that corner. No openings, no windows, nothing like this. It's just the robust corner of the building. Do you want to talk about the utilities?
Yeah. Hi, my name's Matt Bartels. I'm with Canon Design. I'm one of the architects here. I live in Denver. One point that I wanted to make about a prior comment about establishment of the improvements, the right-of-way improvements, is there is a significant number of underground utilities that run under that area, and to implement improvements as we understand them, trees, light poles, those types of things, would require moving all of those utilities out of that area. We would not be able to, as we understand it right now, we haven't done a full design. We understand if we needed to implement those, we'd have to move those utilities out of that location. Something to consider.
Okay, so we have one additional question by Commissioner Jejic, but we are running out of time and we need to have some time to talk about our three choices so that we can give feedback to APS. So go ahead, Commissioner Jejic.
All I was going to say is that, yes, we're running out of time. I would love to see this come back to us after we get all this figured out and presented again. There are a lot of questions that we've had today, so that's all I had.
Okay. All right, let's see. Mr. Bailey, will you please showcase our choices again? I understand that one is going to take it to the school board, which would be a rather lengthy process. We've not really talked about the timing of this. But if you can go ahead and showcase our choices, please.
Of course, yes. Let me pull that back up again. Okay, it should be this right here. So we have the three choices of, as stated before, we move forward with the proposal, with the UDO standards not being met, but we move forward into the civil design process, civil plan process, which we'll have the revised TIS and the civil design issues being moved forward. We can second request that meeting with the School Board of Education to discuss any significant issues that remain. Or third, we can request to see the proposal after issues are resolved. So we would ask them to come back to the Planning Commission study session to present an updated site plan as they're in the civil design plan progress. So they'll be working, essentially they would move forward to the civil plan process, but then have a updated site plan be provided back.
Okay. Well, at the recommendation of Commissioner Jejic, Chris, talk to us about your timing with your team on bringing this back after some more of these issues are resolved, because I have traffic, I have parking, I have access, I have building frontage, there's a number of things that are just kind of unknown, if you will. What's your timing in coming back to us once you have progressed a little further?
Honestly, I think our timing would be as quickly as we could. These planning meetings are once a month, is that correct?
They're twice a month.
Twice a month? Okay, so I don't believe we would make it to the 1 in 2 weeks. But likely within by the 1 a month later, but we would need to fully understand what the resolutions would be desired, because the parking issue, I don't know that would change. We don't have space to add more parking. And as I mentioned, the intent is that overflow goes to North Middle School in their south parking lot.
So related to parking, I think that perhaps you could let us know, are there 5 spaces that are overflowed or are there 50? Those kinds of things. So a little more detail. I don't know when the last time that, any standard was established with kids that drive, but many children or many young people drive to school now, many more than when I went to school. So I just don't know the last time that those standards were updated. I still think that life safety, going back and forth, you had indicated that there would be a lit crosswalk, but that doesn't tell me whether or not there's a blinking light on the street, whether traffic has to stop, just some of those basic things. So those are the things. And maybe Mr. Kaiser can answer some of these. I see his hand up. I see more hands up. But the bottom line is that we do have additional questions. I believe we have 1 meeting in December. We will have 2 likely in January. But frankly, it's going to take you a bit to get through some of the staff review as well. Mr. Kaiser, do you have a?
Commissioner Hogan, I just wanted to ask Christina, in all my years of working with school districts, now I will qualify that they were all in Pennsylvania, except for the last 3 years that I've been working here in this wonderful city. A lot of the school districts would only permit students to drive and park at their facility. Does APS provide or do something similar to that in any of their other high schools?
So our other high schools actually do require permits, and they are all underutilized as far as the parking and as far as the permits as well. So their parking lots are all typically open as far as that goes. And part of that is just because of the demographic of students that are at Aurora Public Schools. They don't tend to drive as frequently, we're finding. And we've actually been seeing that more and more at our schools, that fewer students are driving at APS.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hogan, it looks like we have January 14th and January 28th as the 2 meetings in January. Would either of those be appropriate to bring this back?
Chris and team?
I'm good with having it come back at that time.
Which came around to, yeah.
The applicant, Nicole, is your team good with that?
We have Chris, would you like me to speak to schedule?
Yeah, I
I
think
think-
that's probably good.
Vice Chair Hogan, just as a point of order, I think that the will of the commission is to request that the application come back after review. I think that's all that we need to decide here. All the scheduling can happen offline between staff and the applicant.
Agreed. What say you, commissioners? Commissioner Jejic, in essence, has made a recommendation. Is there a second?
Commissioner
I'll
Wallace.
I'll
second.
second.
All right. I'm gonna go through roll call. Commissioner Banka, would you like
Approve.
this to come back?
I would like it to
Commissioner-
come back. Yeah.
Commissioner Bush,
Yes.
Commissioner Riley,
Concur.
Commissioner Walls,
Concur with the proviso that this is not an official act of the planning commission, as official business doesn't happen during study session. It's a recommendation from the commission.
correct. Thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Jejic,
I agree.
Commissioner Geiser,
I disagree, but I won't be here in January, so it probably doesn't matter.
Commissioner Hogan agrees. So, Christine, if you would like to work with staff on looking at a time that you can bring this back. I saw our city attorney, Lena, I saw her raise her hand. Beyond Commissioner Wall's clarification, Lena, was there something else we should know?
Nope, that's what I was going to mention as well. So took
Perfect.
the words right out of my mouth.
Perfect. So consider this a excited request to hear more about this school. Is that it, staff, related to Christine or Chris? Go ahead. You had one more comment.
I do. I was just wanting clarification. Coming back, yes, but are we moving forward to the civil process and then coming back? Okay. Thank
My
you.
assumption is yes, but that again is, I'm going to defer to staff on that one.
Yeah, this is the recommendation that we see a updated site plan that is moving towards the civil design process. So as it moves into the civil design process, then it's working and coordinating on the revisions of the TIS and working on the civil design items. And then as those items are being resolved during the civil plan process, that comes back to be reviewed again. So it would move forward to the civil design process.
Perfect. Chris, was that clear then? Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right, folks, we will take a brief break and resume at 6:10 for our regularly scheduled planning commission.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.